YTBC, this is your boy Coach Shelton Harrison. You're live on the Coach Shelton Harrison Boxing TV show live. And I got a message for you, Tim Bradley. I got a message for you, Chris Algieri. And I'm going to start with you first, Chris Algieri. I'm going to tell you something right now, Chris Algieri. You're not a person that's defeated. You know, you stepped into a ring. You stepped into a ring with the better man that day, Chris. You stepped into the ring with the better man that day, and that's just the way that is. But Chris Algieri, that don't even detract from your heart. That don't detract from you being a warrior. Because Chris Algieri, when you got that last knockdown, that third knockdown, Chris, I saw the look in your eyes. You wanted to get back up and continue to mix it up with Chris Algieri. There was no fear on your face, Chris. You weren't afraid. But the referee was afraid. And so he stopped the fight. And Chris, I'm glad that the referee stopped the fight. Not because I didn't want to see you mix it up again. Because, Chris, I've always enjoyed your fights. I've always enjoyed your fights. Not that I didn't want to see you fight again, Chris. No. I wanted to see you fight. But, Chris, I wanted to see you live to fight another day. Because in my mind and my brain, I thought that if you got back up again and tried him again, man, I thought that Errol Spence was going to do some serious damage to you. And I tell you what, man, you're a good person and you're a heck of a fighter. Chris, I respect you on levels, man. I respect you on levels. I respect you, man, because you're not afraid to take a tough fight. I respect you, Chris Algieri, because you're not afraid to man up and go do what you got to do as a fighter. And you've only had a couple of losses. Now you got people running around here talking about your career could be over. You got people running around here talking about, Chris, you shouldn't fight. Chris, you need to retire. But you've only had a couple of losses, but people talking about you need to retire. You see, Chris Algieri, I've always been a fan. Whether people like that or don't like it, they sit down and look at it. Chris, I've always been a fan. Now, I know you're going to have some challengers that are going to say, oh, he's a fan of Chris Algieri because he got beat by a black guy. You see, we're going to have those racist idiots running around YouTube saying this. But, Chris, I can tell you something right now. If I could look you in your eye, I would look you right now, Chris, and I would tell you that Coach Shelton Harrison supports Chris Algieri. I support Johan Duhaupas. I support these guys. I support Arthur Spilker. I support these guys because you guys have enough heart, enough courage to get in there with a big dog and fight a live dog and not run from that big dog, Chris Algieri. I got mad respect for you, Chris. Oh, no, your career not over. But I do think you need to go back down to 140. I think the guys at 147, Chris, I think these guys are just too strong. And I think you need to get down to 140, Chris. You need to get down to 140. And at 140, Chris, that's where your strength and power lies. And I think you can do a lot more damage at 140, Chris, and that's just the way that is. You might have to kill yourself. You might have to kill yourself, draining yourself to make weight. But Chris Algieri, I'll tell you this, man, you're not a washed-up fighter. You're not a bum. See, these guys, they couldn't say that you were a bum, Chris. They couldn't really say that you was a bum because they were supporting you. And now some of these same guys are saying that you just didn't have what it takes. You didn't have the skill set. But before you did have the skill set. You see, Chris Algieri, you got a lot of people that support you, man. A lot of people that support you. So you keep your head up. You get back in that gym. Okay? And another problem, Chris, that you lack is physicality. You got to get stronger. And I'm talking physical strength, Chris. Yes, you got to get on the weights. And I know some boxing trainers say that lifting weights for boxers is bad and this and that. No. Because look at John Jones. John Jones' flexibility is outstanding, but he's a weightlifter. You gotta get into a strong weightlifting program, Chris Algieri. You gotta get strong. You gotta get physicality. And just looking, man, you gotta start doing squats, man. You gotta do some cleans, man. You gotta do a lot of different strength exercises, man, to help you get the physicality you need to deal with these guys. And then, and only then, if you want to go back up to 147, you gotta be strong. You have to be strong, Chris, and that's just the way that is. Now I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you, Tim Bradley. You, Tim Bradley. Right now, Tim. Now, Tim Bradley, I'll tell you this right now, man. And I can sit back and I can listen. And everything that you were saying in these interviews. And Tim, you know, I got to be honest with you, man. You sounded like a damn fool. You sounded like a fool, Tim Bradley. But I tell you this, Tim Bradley. At least I can say about you that you are a warrior. I'm not going to call you a coon. I'm not going to call you these things. But Tim Bradley, I know that you are a warrior. You are a true warrior. And you're not afraid to get in there and mix it up with anybody, Tim Bradley. But against Pacquiao and Tim Bradley, you fought the wrong game plan. You fought like you were timid. You fought like you didn't even want to get in there and engage Pacquiao. That's how you fought, Tim. And I got to tell you this, Tim, and I got to tell you this right now, man. You got to stop and think and look at why you're losing these fights. You got to stop and think, Tim. And the problem is, it's not even the trainer, man. Teddy Atlas, Joel Diaz, I thought they both did a good job with you. But Tim, your problem is, man, you don't know how to execute. How to execute and when to execute. And Tim Bradley, these are your problems. You don't execute at the right time. And when it's time for you to execute, Tim Bradley, you don't execute. And that's the problem, Tim. You don't execute when you're supposed to execute. And then you try to execute when it's too late. You see, Tim Bradley, that fight was yours to win. But see what Pacquiao did? Manny Pacquiao just showed why he is going to be a Hall of Famer. Instead of pounding you to death like he did in the first fight, he just decided to box the hell out of you. And that's what he did. He didn't take any unnecessary risk. He boxed you from a distance, and he won a decision against you easily. I mean, Tim, you got to get it together, man. You got to get it together. I don't know what this mental block is with you, Tim Bradley. I don't know what this mental block is with you, but you got a mental block going on, Tim, and that's just the way that is. I don't know what the mental block is, but Tim, you're going to have to figure out, and you're going to have to really overcome this mental block that's in your mind. Because, Tim, this thing is doing you in. It's doing you in when you get into a fight of this caliber. And every time you fought Manny Pacquiao, something has happened in your game plan. And Tim Bradley, I'm not going to blame it on, I'm not going to blame it on bad luck. I'm not going to blame it on Manny Pacquiao mom using a chicken foot to try to curse you. No, Tim. Because she pulled out that same chicken foot when Marquez was fighting. She pulled out the same chicken foot when Floyd fought him. Tim Bradley, this ain't about some damn chicken foot. This ain't about that, Tim Bradley. It's about you being able to take your game to the next level. And it's about you being able to execute, Tim Bradley. And you didn't execute, and that's just the way that is. This is your boy, Coach Shelton Harrison. I'm done.